Scary Stories from Taiwan, Ghosts Folklore, Urban Legends. Chapter 1. Intro. Taiwan is a land of contrast. By day, it glimmers with neon lights, crowded night markets, the aroma of street food, and the bustle of scooters racing through city streets. But when the sun dips below the horizon and the mountains are cloaked in mist, the island tells a different story. Taiwan becomes a place where whispers of the dead ride on the wind, where tunnels echo with more than just traffic, and where every shadow might hold something ancient, something restless. Ghosts are not just tales, here they are part of the fabric of daily life. Ask anyone who has grown up in Taiwan, and they'll tell you stories of encounters that defy logic, warnings passed down from grandparents, or strange happenings that leave no earthly explanation. In Taiwan, the living coexist with the dead. It's a place where the past bleeds into the present, where forgotten tragedies refuse to be silenced, and where folklore clings tightly to every mountain trail, every quiet village, every flickering streetlight. The island's ghost stories are not simply entertainment, they're warnings. They remind people to tread carefully, to respect the unseen, to never assume that you are truly alone. Tonight, we will descend into that world of shadows and secrets. You will hear 3 stories, each rooted in Taiwan's ghostly folklore and urban legends. They are stories that locals still whisper about, tales that survive because they hold something too chilling to forget. The first will take us into the suffocating dark of a tunnel where lost souls linger, where a ride home may turn into something else entirely. The second will lead us high into the mountains, where ghostly figures lure travelers into the fog, their intentions far from innocent. And the third will pull us back to the oldest of Taiwan's tales, a creature that disguises itself as family only to feed on the ones who trust it most. These are not fairy tales. These are stories that echo across Taiwan, reminders that the line between the living and the dead is far thinner than we imagine. So lean in close and listen carefully, because once you hear these stories, you'll never look at Taiwan the same way again. Chapter 2. The Xinhai Tunnel Ghost. It begins late at night. Taipei has already slowed down. Its vibrant streets now dim and scattered, with only the occasional headlights of a taxi weaving through empty intersections. The neon signs that usually pulse with life have dimmed, their glow half-hearted, as if the city itself is trying to rest. For taxi drivers, the night belongs to them, but it also belongs to something else, something unseen, something that watches from the corners of the streets no one dares to walk. One driver, weary from a long shift, considers heading home. His back aches from hours behind the wheel and his eyelids are heavy. But just as he turns toward a quieter road, he sees her, a young woman standing under a dim street lamp near the southern edge of the city. She is dressed simply a plain blouse, a long skirt. Her long black hair hangs loose, spilling over her shoulders in a way that seems too deliberate, too still, as if not even the night breeze can touch it. She raises her arms slowly, signaling for a ride. Something about her stance is odd, too rigid, too calm, but the driver reminds himself this is his job. He pulls up, rolls down the window, and asks, "Where are you going?" The woman leans in. Her face is pale, her expression blank, her lips pressed thin, as if she hasn't spoken in years. Then, in a soft, almost hesitant voice, she gives him an address. No small talk, no thank you, just a set of directions delivered like a secret. The driver nods, unlocking the door. She slides into the back seat, her movements deliberate and slow, as though she were gliding rather than sitting. He pulls back onto the road, telling himself it's just another fare, just another ride. But the route she's given him takes them straight through the Xinhai Tunnel. Even by day, the tunnel has a reputation. Locals whisper that its curved concrete walls trap more than exhaust fumes. They say it's a place where voices echo even when no one speaks, where shadows move differently than they should. At night, it feels alive, like it's breathing with you, like it's waiting. The taxi approaches the mouth of the tunnel, the headlights catching on wet concrete. The driver swallows hard, pushes down his unease, and drives in. Inside, the fluorescent lights flicker overhead. The air grows thick, damp, heavy. The tunnel's narrow body seems to stretch on forever, swallowing the sound of his tires. To break the silence, the driver reaches for the radio, but the moment he touches the dial, a blast of static fills the car. A harsh, grating noise that makes him flinch. He quickly shuts it off. The tunnel plunges into a silence so complete it presses against his eardrums. Only the low hum of the engine and the faint sound of his own breathing remain. He glances into the rearview mirror. His passenger stares straight ahead, her face barely visible under the flickering light. Her eyes reflect the glow in a way that feels unnatural, flat, lifeless, like glass. Her expression does not change, not even when the car jerks slightly over a bump in the road. Halfway through, it happens. The air temperature drops. Not just a chill, but a biting, unnatural cold that crawls into his bones. His fingers stiffen against the steering wheel. A bead of condensation fogs the windshield. Even though it is the middle of summer, he shivers violently and glances again at the mirror. His stomach drops. The woman is gone. The seat behind him is empty. Panicked, the driver whirls around and there she is, sitting perfectly still, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her eyes staring straight ahead. She's there in the flesh, but in the mirror, she does not exist. His breath comes fast, shallow. He tells himself he is tired, that his mind is playing tricks. But the tunnel stretches endlessly, darker than it should be. The lights flicker off for a moment, just long enough for him to feel truly alone, before buzzing weakly back to life. Finally, the car emerges into the open air. Relief washes over him like a wave. The stars are visible again, the mist of the tunnel behind him. He glances into the back seat, ready to reassure himself that everything is fine. The seat is empty. The taxi screeches to a halt on the roadside. His heart pounds so hard he can hear it echoing in his ears. He throws open the door, rushes around to the back, flings it open, but the seat is vacant. No one is there. Only a faint scent lingers in the car, sharp and unnatural. Damp earth, the kind of smell that clings to a fresh grave. His skin crawls. His hands shake violently as he climbs back into the driver's seat. He wants to drive away, to leave it all behind, but something gnaws at him. The address she gave. Almost against his will, he drives on. His headlights cut through the night until they land on a quiet old house. The windows are dark, the garden overgrown, the paint on the walls peeling away like old skin. He hesitates, then forces himself out of the car. He knocks. After a long silence, the door creaks open. An elderly man stands there, his face etched with lines of grief. His eyes are hollow, tired. The driver stammers, explaining what happened, how he picked up a girl, how she vanished, how she gave this very address. His voice shakes, but the old man listens quietly, patiently, as though none of this surprises him. Finally, the man sighs. He gestures for the driver to follow him inside. On a small wooden table sits a framed photograph. The driver feels the blood drain from his face. The woman in the picture is the very same passenger, the same hair, the same face, the same expressionless eyes. "She was my daughter," the man says softly. His voice cracks under the weight of the words. "She died years ago, in that tunnel. She always tries to come home." The driver stumbles back, his throat tight, his mind screaming at him to leave. His hands tremble so hard he nearly drops the photo, but the old man does not flinch. He simply shakes his head, as though this is routine. "You are not the first," he whispers, "and you will not be the last." The driver leaves without another word. He does not look back at the house. He does not return to the tunnel. That night marked the end of his late shift driving forever. But other drivers still whisper of her. The pale girl who waits by the roadside near the southern edge of the city, her arm raised for a ride. She never speaks much, only gives an address. And if you are unlucky enough to drive her through the Shinhai Tunnel, you may never see the world the same way again. Because she is still out there, still trying to come home. Chapter 3. Yushan, Xiaofeixia. Taiwan's tallest mountain, Jade Mountain or Yushan, rises above the island like a guardian of stone and mist. Its peaks cut into the sky, its ridges covered in forests that stretch down into endless valleys. To many, Yushan is sacred, a place of beauty and reverence. But locals whisper that the mountain holds more than breathtaking views. They say there are things on Yushan that do not belong to the living. The story begins with 4 friends, university students who wanted to test themselves against the island's most famous peak. They were young, restless, and full of confidence. Hiking Yushan would be a challenge, but it was a badge of honor, something to brag about when they returned home. They set out before dawn, backpacks strapped tightly, boots crunching against the rocky trail. The morning air was sharp and clean, filling their lungs with an energy that pushed them higher. The rising sun bathed the slopes in golden light. They laughed, snapping photos, pointing down at the sea of clouds, stretching endlessly beneath them. Every step felt triumphant, as if the mountain itself were cheering them on. But mountains are unpredictable. By midday, The weather shifted. The blue sky dulled to grey, the wind picking up. Mist rolled over the ridge like a living thing, creeping along the ground, wrapping itself around the hikers' legs. The world narrowed until only a few feet of trail were visible at a time. Still, they pressed on. It was then that they saw them. At first, just vague shapes in the fog, small, slight, almost childlike. As the figures grew clearer, the friends saw what looked like children dressed in bright yellow raincoats, standing motionless in the haze. Their heads tilted slightly, their arms raised in silent invitation. "Strange," one whispered. "Why would children be up here? It's too dangerous." The others shrugged uneasily, their voices hushed, as if the mist itself demanded silence. The figures beckoned. They did not speak. They only gestured with slow, deliberate movements, urging the hikers to follow. And somehow, without thinking, the group did. The children moved quickly, always just far enough ahead to keep out of reach. They vanished into the fog, only to reappear further up the slope, their yellow coats flashing briefly before melting back into the grey. The friends followed, driven by a mix of curiosity and something else, an invisible pull that gnawed at their will. The laughter that once filled the group was gone. The higher they climbed, the colder it grew. The mist wrapped tighter around them, muffling every sound, even the crunch of their boots. Their GPS showed them straying farther and farther from the marked trail, yet the figures in yellow kept appearing, always ahead, always beckoning. Unease spread through the group. One hiker, May, noticed something that froze her blood. The ground was damp with dew, their own footprints pressed clearly into the mud. But the children left nothing. No tracks, no impressions. They glided across the rocks as if the earth itself rejected them. Her voice trembled. "They aren't real. We shouldn't follow them." But before anyone could respond, one of the figures stopped and turned. Its face, blurred by mist, seemed wrong. Too pale, too flat. Its features washed away until only hollow eyes remained. And yet, it smiled. A faint, distorted curve of lips that held no warmth. The hikers froze. Then, one of the boys stepped forward, his voice cracking. "Maybe they know a shortcut." "Stop!" May screamed. Her warning came just in time. The fog parted for a heartbeat, and the ground disappeared. The boy had been about to step into nothingness, the edge of a cliff yawning before them, hundreds of feet of jagged rock below. His knees buckled as he stumbled backward, gasping. The figures vanished instantly. One moment they were there, beckoning from the mist. The next, gone. As if they had never existed at all. The silence that followed was deafening. The group huddled together, trembling, hearts hammering in their chests. For a long time, none of them spoke. Finally, May whispered the word every local knows, the word that chills the bones of even seasoned mountaineers. "The Shalfeisha," she said. "The little flyers," her voice broke. "Spirits of those who died here." According to legend, the Xiaofeixia are the souls of lost hikers, or, in some versions, the restless spirits of children who perished in the mountains long ago. They appear to travelers as innocent guides, leading them astray. Some say they vanished just before disaster, leaving the living to realize how close they came. Others say the spirits succeed, and those who follow too far never return. The four friends stood on the edge of the cliff, staring into the mist. Somewhere deep below, the wind howled like a chorus of voices. Were they cries of the lost, or laughter from spirits who had nearly claimed another soul? They did not wait to find out. With shaking hands, they turned back, retracing their steps. Every sound made them flinch: the crack of a branch, the rush of the wind, even the beat of their own hearts. For hours they stumbled through the fog, guided only by instinct and desperation, until at last the mist thinned and the trail markers reappeared. When they finally reached the base of the mountain, exhausted and pale, they swore never to speak of it. But silence rarely lasts. One by one, they told the story to friends, to classmates, to anyone who would listen. Each time they spoke, the memory grew sharper, not duller, as though the mountain wanted its tale to live on. They survived. But others have not been so fortunate. Local rescue teams whisper of climbers found at the bottom of ravines, their faces frozen in terror, their bodies broken on the rocks. Some say these victims followed children in yellow raincoats into the fog. The mountain keeps what it takes. And so the warning spreads. If you ever climb Yushan and the mist closes in, beware the Xiaofexia. If you see children in yellow raincoats waving for you to follow, resist the urge. Do not trust them. Do not step closer, because the little flyers are waiting for new hikers to join them in the mist, to vanish from the living world and become part of the mountain's ghostly family. The friends returned home alive, but changed forever. Their laughter never sounded quite the same. Their photographs from the trip, once filled with joy, seemed darker now, as though the mist had left its mark. And sometimes, late at night, they swore they could still hear it, faint voices calling from far away, urging them to come back, to climb higher, to join the children who wait in the fog. Chapter 4. Aunt Tiger. Long before Taiwan was crowded with cities and highways, there were villages tucked deep into the mountains. And in those villages, parents told their children one story more than any other. It was the story of Aunt Tiger. The tale begins with two children, a brother and sister, left at home while their mother goes to the market. Night falls quickly, the mountains casting long shadows over their small house. Just as the fire begins to dim, there is a knock at the door. The children hesitate, then a voice calls out, soft and familiar. "It's your aunt. Let me in." The door creaks open, and an old woman steps inside. Her face is lined, her clothes simple. At first glance, she seems harmless. But the children notice things: the way her eyes gleam unnaturally in the firelight, the way her long nails scratch against the wood as she sets down her bundle. She smiles, revealing teeth that are just a little too sharp. "Your mother said I should watch over you." The brother is uneasy, but the sister remembers her mother's warning. Aunt Tiger is not what she seems. As the night wears on, the old woman's hunger grows harder to hide. She licks her lips, her voice dropping lower, more guttural. When the children look closer, they see her skin ripple, her movements more animal than human. Finally, she reveals her true form: not a frail old woman, but a creature with the body of a tiger and the face of a twisted human. The children scream, scrambling to escape, but the sister is clever. She tricks Aunt Tiger, asking her to fetch water from the well. When the creature leans over, the sister pushes her in, slamming the cover shut. The well echoes with inhuman screams, the sound of claws scraping against stone. Some versions say Aunt Tiger drowned that night. Others say she escaped, wounded but still hungry, still hunting. Parents tell this story not just to scare children, but to warn them danger often wears a familiar face. And even now, villagers whisper that Aunt Tiger roams the night, knocking on doors, calling out in voices that sound just like family. So when you hear a knock at night and a voice says, "It's your aunt," think carefully before you open the door, because some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Closing outro. These are the stories Taiwan keeps close. Not just tales of the past, but warnings that live on in the present. The girl in the tunnel who still hails a ride. The ghostly children of Jade Mountain who lure hikers to their deaths. The Aunt Tiger who hides behind a familiar voice. They remind us that no matter how modern the world becomes, the shadows never disappear. The spirits of Taiwan still walk beside the living, still whisper in the dark, still hunger for those who wander too close. So the next time you find yourself in Taiwan, remember these stories. When you drive through a tunnel at night, when you hike through the mist, when you hear a knock at your door, ask yourself, are you alone? Because in Taiwan, the dead are never far away.